So, Redacted Audio has a bunch of characters. And there's tons of boys you can choose from that will be your favorite or some of your favorites. But I've noticed a bit of a trend with who is choosing Gavin as one of their favorites. And I think it's really interesting because I also fit into this. And that is, a lot of asexuals really like Gavin. And that seems a little weird at first, Why are all of the asexuals choosing the most sexual character to be their favorite? And, I don't speak for everyone, but I was talking to some people who are asexual and really like Gavin, and as someone who's asexual who also really likes Gavin, I have my own little theories as to why Gavin might be so popular with the asexuals, and, I wanted to talk about it, because I love him, and I think this is an interesting phenomena. I want to say, I made a post about this on Tumblr, this exact thought I had on Tumblr a while ago, but I can't find it anymore. It disappeared into the Tumblr ether, and I was gonna read it out for this, because it is basically a very simple summary of my thoughts that are gonna go into this whole video, but I like talking, and I like hearing myself talk, so I might as well make this video to do just that. So, for those of you who may not be too familiar with Gavin's character, Gavin is an incubus, right? And throughout the course of his relationship with his listener, Freelancer, he grows quite a lot. And I think a lot of people, at least a lot of asexuals, started out feeling the same way about Gavin, and that was like, I don't really like him so much in the beginning. He's fine, he's kind of cute, but he's not my favorite. And then as the series has progressed, they've just grown really attached to him. And I can certainly say that that is my experience, because I put off watching the Freelancer series for a long time because I didn't really like Gavin. And I didn't feel very attached to any of the other characters, but mostly because I didn't really like Gavin. But one day I finally, sat down and was like, I'm going to watch the whole series. I'm going to get through it just so I know what's happening. And I fell in love with Gavin. Gavin is one of my top 3 favorite characters, and he is very close to being up in the top 2 for sure. So I love him. I think he's fantastic. But, like I said, in the beginning, I didn't like him so much. And I think my distaste for him was because in the very beginning, he was just a sexual figure, basically. And Gavin is a very sexual character in general. That I won't deny. Even now, after his major character growth and big plot points have happened, he's still a very sexual character. I mean, he's a sex demon. What do you expect? But in the beginning, Gavin was very focused on being sexual, and that was very important to his character growth. It was good that that was him in the beginning because he was able to learn to grow out of that. But I think because of that, it may have potentially turned off a lot of people to his character in the beginning, pun intended. And I don't know, I think it's interesting to see the moment that everyone really started liking Gavin. And for a lot of asexuals, that was his confession audio. And there is a very, very good reason for that. Gavin's confession audio is one of, if not my favorite video Redacted has ever put out. It makes me cry every single time. And there's multiple lines that I feel very attached to. And I know for a fact, because I've talked to some people, that other asexuals in the community who really like Gavin also feel very attached to this video in particular. But it's very special to me personally because there's one line, and I don't know it exactly, but I know it's, "You were always more than just sex to me." And that line makes me weep. I will bawl my eyes out to that line. And it's just, it hits at a very real fear that not only I have for a multitude of reasons, but a lot of asexuals have, I think, where we're kind of worried that we won't find a meaningful, long-lasting relationship because sex is either not on the table or not as prevalent within our relationships. And I think that line specifically hit real close to home for me, for, like I said, a multitude of reasons. But it's just, it helps squash that fear of, like, never having a relationship with someone that they'll actually love you for you and not, just sex or aspects that a lot of asexual people are either not comfortable with or are hesitant to give in some situations. And I think that whole video in general touches on a lot of things that a lot of asexual people can relate to, because Gavin himself in that video, talking about himself, is touching on a lot of his own insecurities when it comes to being a sex demon and having sex. And I think that is a point where a lot of people fell in love with him, because not only is he telling Freelancer that they aren't just sex to him, but he's also showing that he himself is more than sex and that he wants to have a relationship with them that is more than sex. And it's the point in Gavin's character that he, I think, gets 1,000 times better. Because not only is this the point for him where he gets to grow and give love and feel love in a way that feels meaningful to him and to his listener, but also it's a point that just sets him on the right track, I think. Because, in my opinion, this is going a little off topic, but if Gavin didn't meet Freelancer, I think Gavin would have been a drastically different character and a drastically different person within his universe. And so I think not only is this obviously a turning point for Gavin as a character, but it's a turning point for a lot of listeners who tend to like him a lot more because he goes through this major growth after this and, like, during this audio. Gavin is a character that, especially in this audio, but even after this audio, shows time and time again that he prioritizes his emotional connection and his love for his listener over anything else. And not to shove in one of my own personal headcanons, but if Freelancer was like, I never want to have sex again, I'm pretty sure Gavin would be 100% cool with that. A lot of aspecs really like Gavin, and I think what it ultimately boils down to is how unimportant sex actually is to him. Like, I think a lot of asexuals and aspecs can look past how sexual he is anyway, and hell, they may even enjoy how sexual he is anyway, considering being asexual doesn't mean you can't enjoy sex in some way or sexual things in some way. But I think what really resonates with a lot of asexuals is just how emotionally connected Gavin is to his listener. I think Gavin is a character that really truly values love with his listener. And that's not to say that the other characters in the Redacted verse don't also value love and love their listeners, but Gavin's love it's special, I think, because especially in his confession audio, Gavin is confessing not only his love for Freelancer, but how important his love is to him and to their relationship. And Gavin continues to showcase and tell the listener that he loves them in a way that is not only unconditional, but it goes beyond what he was created to do. Or, I don't know if created is the right word, so take that in quotations, but he's a sex demon. And he has made it clear that despite enjoying sex with his partner, it's not important. And I think a lot of aspec people can really appreciate that, and really resonate with how deep Gavin's love is despite sex. Because with a lot of the other characters, Not to say that they don't love their listener unconditionally, but we haven't had the same amount of care and thought put into how deep their love goes, especially when it comes to regards with sexual things. Sex is not mentioned as often with other characters. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not as integral to their character, I think. And so it may not make as much sense to mention how much a character loves their partner, regardless of sex, as it does with Gavin. But Gavin is the only character that we have that mentions anything like that. And I think a lot of asexuals and aspec people can find a lot of solace in that and find a lot of comfort in that. TLDR, I think a lot of asexuals really like Gavin. And I find that the main reason for that, at least from personal experience and personally talking to a couple other asexuals, is Gavin shows love in such a sincere way. And time again, he continues to remind his listener that despite being an incubus, sex is not important to him. And it isn't necessary for him to love his listener. And I do think that is ultimately why a lot of asexuals and aspec people find him so charming and end up falling in love with him. The main message I get from Gavin's videos and Gavin's character is, despite literally surviving off of sex, Gavin's love goes a lot deeper. And that's a message that I think is really important to a lot of people, but especially asexuals. So, yeah, it's a little odd that Gavin, the sex demon, is loved by asexuals, but if you really look into it, I think it makes a lot of sense. At least from my perspective.